There are two kinds of quiet daughters in every house. The ones whose silence means obedience. And the ones whose silence means memory. Most parents never learn the difference. Not until one morning when a folder slides across a kitchen table, and the daughter finally looks up. And in that single moment, the mother realizes she raised the wrong kind of quiet girl. My name is Quinn Everett. I turned 18 on April 15, 2026. And less than 9 hours later, my mother tried to steal my inheritance while smiling over pancakes. The worst part? She thought I would thank her for it. But before I take you into that kitchen, I need to take you back 6 months earlier. Back to the first warning my grandfather ever gave me. Back to the moment I realized quiet people hear everything. It was October. Cold enough for porch lights to come on before dinner. The trees outside our house looked tired and thin. I was cleaning my room because my mother hated mess, even tiny mess. On the top shelf of my bookcase sat Grandpa Harold's cedar box. He had given it to me on my 17th birthday. The last gift he ever handed me himself. I hadn't opened it in months. The wood still smelled faintly like cedar and old paper when I lifted the lid. Inside was a pressed maple leaf, an old photo of Grandpa and Grandma smiling beside their garden, and a sealed white envelope. Heavy. Important. On the front, in Grandpa's careful handwriting, were the words. Open only if something feels off with your mother before your 18th birthday. Call David Caldwell immediately. I stared at it so long my eyes hurt. Grandpa had been dead for over a year. And somehow, he already knew. Downstairs, I heard papers moving around the kitchen table. Slow shuffling. Quiet voices. My mother's voice low. Mark's voice even lower. I couldn't hear the words. But something in my chest tightened anyway. I slipped the envelope back into the box and closed the lid carefully. Then I went downstairs like nothing had happened. That was the first mistake my mother made. She thought silence meant blindness. It didn't. Silence meant I was collecting evidence. My father died when I was 10 years old. Gregory Everett. He drove a silver Ford Ranger. One foggy morning in November 2018, a truck crossed the line on Route 30. A state trooper showed up at our front door holding his hat against his chest. My mother screamed once. Then she became practical. 1 week later she was looking at kitchen remodels online. 2 years later she married Mark Hollis. Contractor. Loud truck. Loud laugh. Loud opinions. He brought his daughter Skylar into the house too. Skylar was 2 years younger than me and talked enough for both of us. I learned quickly how our house worked. Crying annoyed my mother. If I got upset, she called me dramatic. If I laughed too loudly, she called me attention-seeking. If I got excited about anything, she found a way to flatten it. So by the time I was 12, I stopped showing emotions around her. Not because I didn't feel them. Because feelings became weapons in our house. Grandma Margaret noticed first. She would sit beside me on the porch swing and say softly, "You don't have to be brave all the time here." Grandpa Harold noticed too. He never pushed. Never cornered me. Never demanded smiles. He just made space. Tomato gardens. Books. Quiet breakfasts. Safe silence. My mother thought I was obedient. Actually, I was observant. And observant people remember everything. Dinner at our house always followed the same routine. 6:30 p.m. Mark through the garage door. Boots off in the laundry room. Key slammed onto the counter. Complaints about work. My mother pouring wine before he asked. Skylar talking non-stop. One Sunday in March, Skylar announced she got into Bucknell. Mark nearly shouted with pride. "That's my girl." My mother touched Skylar's wrist gently. "We'll figure out tuition. Don't worry." I kept cutting my chicken quietly. Then I said, "I got into Penn State yesterday." The whole table went still. Not shocked. Just uninterested. My mother smiled politely. That's nice, sweetheart. Mark shrugged. College is a scam anyway. Then my mother added the sentence I had started hearing too often. We'll discuss your future closer to your birthday. Closer to your birthday. Always that phrase. Never celebrate. Never party. Always discuss. Like a meeting. Like paperwork. Mark lifted his wine glass and muttered, "Family money stays with family." My mother shot him a warning look immediately. Too late. I noticed. I always noticed. Grandma Margaret died when I was 14. Breast cancer. The second time she fought it, she lost. She held my hand in the hospital bed and whispered, "You are a good girl, Quinn. Don't let anybody rewrite that." I didn't cry until the parking lot. Grandpa sat beside me in silence while I shook apart in the passenger seat. He never told me to calm down. Never told me I was dramatic. He just let me grieve. After Grandma died, Grandpa got quieter. Not colder. Just softer. Like someone slowly dimming a lamp. The summer I turned 16, I stayed with him for 2 months. I cooked breakfast. Read books beside his chair. Watered the tomatoes. We barely talked sometimes. But it was the safest I ever felt. Then one September morning, Grandpa died too. Heart attack. 78 years old. At the funeral, my mother cried perfectly. Controlled tears. Controlled voice. Controlled shaking shoulders. Mark checked his phone in the back row. 2 weeks later the will was read. That was the day everything changed. Grandpa had left me a trust. Around $680,000. Stocks. Cash. Land sale profits. Enough money to completely change someone's life. The trust would transfer fully to me on my 18th birthday. David Caldwell was the attorney in charge. Grandpa's handwritten note inside the document said only 6 words. Your choice. Your life. Love, Grandpa. My mother stared at that note too long. Not emotional. Calculating. Like she was already solving a problem in her head. That was when the planning started. 6 months before my birthday, a man in a gray suit began visiting our house every Wednesday afternoon. Same Lexus. Same leather briefcase. Same careful smile. My mother changed his identity every week. Insurance agent. Financial advisor. Friend of Mark's. The story never stayed the same. One snowy afternoon in January, I came home early from the library. I stepped into the mudroom and heard voices in the kitchen. My mother said, "Once she signs, the rest is automatic." Mark asked, "And if she hesitates?" My mother laughed softly. "She won't. Quinn always listens." I stood frozen with snow melting off my boots. Then I opened the door loudly on purpose. "Mom? I'm home." Papers moved fast. When I walked in, the table was empty. My mother smiled too brightly. "Snow day. Want cocoa?" On the counter, sticking out from beneath her purse, I saw embossed letters. Briggs and Associates. Family Wealth Planning. Skylar walked in behind me and casually asked, "Is that about Quinn's money?" Mark snapped instantly. "Go upstairs." Skylar disappeared. My mother handed me cocoa with shaking hands. "You're such a good girl, Quinny." That was the exact moment I stopped being confused. I didn't know every detail yet. But I knew enough. Friday afternoon, I finally opened Grandpa's envelope. I walked to Willow Creek Park alone. Cold wind. Empty swings. Gray sky. The letter inside was 1 page long. Peanut. If you are reading this, something has gone wrong with your mother. I hoped I was wrong. David Caldwell has handled my affairs for 30 years. He knows everything. You have the right to protect yourself. You have the right to choose. Love, Grandpa. At the bottom was a phone number. My hand shook while I dialed it. A receptionist answered first. Then a calm older man came onto the line. Quinn, he said gently. I've been expecting your call. No one had ever said that to me before. Not like that. Not with trust. He asked me to come to Lancaster the next week. Tell your mother it's about college aid, he said. And Quinn? Yes? Do not change your behavior at home. Not your face. Not your routine. Not one word. I agreed. David Caldwell's office sat above a brick storefront downtown. Books everywhere. Green banker's lamp. Stacks of files. A dying plant near the window. He spoke slowly and clearly. Like he respected me enough to tell me the truth. He explained everything. Trusts. Beneficiaries. Guardianship. Legal control. Then he finally looked at me carefully and said, Your mother has been working with an attorney named Lance Briggs. He opened a folder and slid it toward me. Everett Family Financial Unification Agreement. My name covered the top page. I read in silence. My stomach turned colder with every line. The document would make my mother co-trustee. It would give her financial control over my inheritance. Part of my trust would transfer into a company called Hollis Everett Holdings LLC. The signature line was dated 2 months before my 18th birthday. While I was still legally a minor. I looked up slowly. They wanted me to sign this before my birthday. Caldwell nodded once. Yes. My hands felt numb. 4 months. 4 months of smiling breakfasts. Family dinners. Birthday planning. While they quietly built a legal cage around me. I whispered, they were going to take it. Caldwell didn't soften the truth. Yes. The honesty almost hurt more than the betrayal. Then he leaned forward slightly. But your grandfather prepared for this possibility. That sentence changed something inside me. For the first time, I stopped feeling helpless. Caldwell explained my options. We could create a completely new trust. Irrevocable. Protected. Untouchable. A corporate trustee. No access for my mother. No access for Mark. No access for anyone except me. Once it's signed, he said, not even emotional pressure can undo it. I thought about my mother crying. About guilt. About manipulation. About all the ways she knew how to make me feel selfish. Then I looked him in the eye. Let's do it. We built the trust piece by piece over the next 2 months. He explained every word. Every clause. Every protection. I named it the Margaret Trust after my grandmother. Caldwell smiled when I said the name. He wrote it down carefully. We excluded my mother, Mark, and Skylar permanently from any legal control. The trust would cover school, housing, medical care, emergencies. Nothing else. No family borrowing. No temporary help. No emotional blackmail disguised as sacrifice. One afternoon, Aunt Beth called me unexpectedly. My dad's younger sister. ICU nurse. Sharp voice. Sharp mind. She said quietly, your father tried to protect you too. I sat on the back porch gripping my phone. What do you mean? 6 months before he died, he wanted a trust for you. Your mother fought him until he backed down. My chest tightened painfully. How much money? About $450,000 in life insurance. I closed my eyes. My father had tried. He really had tried. Beth sighed softly. Quinn, you are not the first person your mother manipulated. You're just the first one with a grandfather who planned ahead. After that call, I stopped doubting myself completely. The Sunday before my birthday, my mother made pot roast. Her special occasion meal. During dinner I casually asked, "What's the difference between a trust and a family account?" My mother lit up instantly. "Oh honey, family accounts are much simpler. Trusts are cold. Lawyers eat all the money." Mark added, "Family money belongs in family hands." Then he accidentally said the word corporate trustee. A phrase I had never used around him. I smiled politely and kept eating. Inside, alarm screamed. Skylar suddenly said, "Mom says the money was supposed to help all of us anyway." Silence. Thick silence. My mother recovered quickly. "She just means families support each other." But it was too late. Skylar knew enough to expose them without meaning to. 2 days before my birthday, my mother planned a big dinner at Willow Creek Country Club. 15 guests. Church friends. Neighbors. Business partners. During dessert she stood up with her wine glass. "To my brave daughter," she announced proudly, "who's going to make very smart decisions tomorrow." Everyone applauded. Across the room, sitting alone with a Caesar salad and a leather briefcase, was a man I recognized immediately from Caldwell's descriptions. Lance Briggs. Their lawyer. Watching me. Waiting. I smiled through dinner anyway. The night of my birthday, I locked my bedroom door. 11:52 p.m. Laptop open. Zoom meeting ready. David Caldwell joined first. Then Priya Desai from Midland Trust Services. Then the online notary. 11:59 p.m. Everyone waited quietly. The cursor blinked in the signature box. 12 a.m. I signed my full legal name. Quinn Marie Everett. One careful letter at a time. At 12:04 a.m., Priya smiled. "The transfer is complete. The Margaret Trust is fully funded and irrevocable. $681,412.90. Protected forever." Caldwell looked directly into the camera. "Happy birthday, Quinn. Your grandfather would be proud." After the call ended, I sat in silence for a long time. Then, for the first time in months, I slept peacefully. Morning came too fast. 7:45 a.m. The kitchen smelled like pancakes. My mother wore her pink robe and bright birthday smile. Mark sat at the table. Skylar scrolled on her phone. And there it was. The manila folder. Waiting beside my plate. I sat down calmly. Candles flickered on top of pancakes. My mother hugged me too tightly. "Happy birthday, sweetheart." I thanked her. I ate 2 bites. Then she folded her hands gently. "Honey, now that you're 18, we should discuss Grandpa's money." The folder slid toward me across the table. Smooth. Practiced. She had rehearsed this moment. I opened it carefully. Everett Family Financial Unification Agreement. Exactly the same documents Caldwell showed me. Co-trusteeship. Power of attorney. Asset transfer. Skylar's tuition included. Every page smelled like betrayal. My mother smiled patiently while I read. At first she looked confident. Then irritated. Then nervous. 5 minutes passed. Mark finally snapped, "You don't need to read every line." I looked up calmly. "I like understanding what I sign." He shifted in his chair. I turned another page slowly. "Mom," I asked softly, "what exactly is Hollis Everett Holdings LLC?" Her smile twitched. "Oh, just a family company. Tax stuff." "When was it created?" "I don't remember." Mark interrupted fast. "Quinn, enough. Just sign it." I looked at him carefully. "You said your guy earlier. Your lawyer." His jaw tightened. My mother jumped in quickly. "Honey, this is all for your protection." I kept reading. Version 4.3. Generated 4 months earlier. 4 versions. 4 months of planning. I closed the folder carefully. Mom, I said quietly, this document was written while I was still a minor. We were preparing for your future, she answered too quickly. I tilted my head slightly. Using parental authority to control my inheritance? Her face changed. Tiny panic. Tiny crack. Mark leaned forward hard. Sign the papers, Quinn. I stayed calm. How long have you known Lance Briggs? Silence exploded across the kitchen. My mother whispered, we never mentioned his name. I know, I answered. That's what concerns me. Skylar looked terrified now. My mother tried again with her soft wounded voice. Quinny, honey, you don't understand how dangerous money can be at your age. I nodded slowly. You're right. For 1 second relief crossed her face. Then I added. That's why I already hired an attorney. Everything stopped. Completely stopped. My mother stared at me. Mark half stood from his chair. What? My phone vibrated on the table. All three of them looked down. David Caldwell, Esquire. 9:03 a.m. Exactly on time. My mother lost all color instantly. Don't answer that, Mark snapped. I picked up the phone calmly. I think I will. Quinn, wait, my mother whispered. I pressed speaker. Good morning, Mr. Caldwell. His calm voice filled the kitchen. Happy birthday, Quinn. I hope I'm not interrupting breakfast. No, I said softly. We were discussing money. Excellent timing then. My mother looked physically sick. Caldwell continued calmly. I'm calling to confirm the Margaret Trust transfer completed successfully at 12:04 a.m. today. Silence. Heavy silence. The trust is fully funded and irrevocable. My mother dropped her fork. Mark clenched both fists. Skylar whispered, what trust? Caldwell answered gently. A protected trust established solely for Quinn's benefit. Mark exploded. What the hell are you talking about? Caldwell remained perfectly calm. I'd advise careful language, Mr. Hollis. I almost admired how quickly Mark sat back down. Then Caldwell kept going. As of midnight, the inheritance can no longer legally be transferred, reassigned, or controlled by any outside party. My mother looked at me like she had never seen me before. Not quiet. Not obedient. Dangerous. Caldwell then mentioned the Briggs documents. The whistleblower. The complaint. The disciplinary board. Every single thing. Piece by piece. My mother finally whispered, please stop. But he didn't. He explained exactly why the documents were unethical. Why they targeted a minor. Why they violated fiduciary duty. Why Briggs was already under investigation. Every sentence stripped away another layer of control from my mother's face. Then Caldwell asked me quietly, Quinn, can you confirm the document in front of you? I looked down at the folder. 12 pages. Everett Family Financial Unification Agreement. Briggs and Associates. Yes, he said softly. That's the document. Skylar covered her mouth. Mark muttered, this is a setup. Caldwell answered immediately. No, Mr. Hollis. A setup requires deception. Quinn simply read what was placed in front of her. That line hit the room like broken glass. I looked at my mother. Did you know what was in these papers? Tears filled her eyes immediately. Quinn. Yes or no? She broke. Yes. Skylar made a tiny choking sound. Mark slammed his hand on the table. You did all this behind our backs? I looked directly at him. No, Mark. I handled my business legally at 12:01 a.m. You planned yours behind my back for 4 months while I was still 17. His face turned dark red. We raised you. I answered quietly. You moved in when I was 12. That silence hurt more than shouting. Then I opened page 9 and read aloud the line about tuition support for Skylar. Nobody denied it. Nobody defended it either. I finally closed the folder. I'll keep this. My mother started crying hard now. Real tears. But familiar tears. Weapon tears. After everything I sacrificed for you. I interrupted softly. I think we need professionals present before we discuss the word sacrifice. That sentence hit harder than yelling ever could. Then Caldwell spoke again. Quinn, your Aunt Beth is waiting at the end of the driveway. I stood slowly. Picked up my phone. Picked up the folder. Put on my jacket. At the front door I paused and looked at Skylar. You were 16. You didn't create this. She looked close to tears. Text me in a year. She nodded silently. Then I walked outside. The morning air felt clean. Honest. Aunt Beth waited in her old Honda with the engine running. I thought leaving would end everything. It didn't. It only started the war. Beth's apartment in Pittsburgh felt nothing like my house. Warm blankets. Cat hair. Tea mugs. Messy bookshelves. Real laughter. No performance. I checked my phone once after my shower. 47 missed calls. Dozens of texts. Your mother is devastated. Call home immediately. You're breaking her heart. Pastor Lowry wants to speak with you. Beth looked over my shoulder and said one word. Block. I stared at her. All of them? All of them. So I did. Then I slept 10 straight hours. Meanwhile, back in Willow Creek, my mother began losing control of the story. At church she cried publicly. Called me confused. Said I abandoned the family. But people had already started connecting the dots. Too many strange comments. Too many public hints about money. Too many witnesses from the country club dinner. Too many people remembering Mark saying big day. The town turned quietly. Not loudly. Quietly. And quiet judgment in a small town lasts forever. Skylar suffered the most socially. Kids whispered. Parents whispered louder. But most people believed she didn't know the full plan. And honestly? I believed that too. Then Mark's finances collapsed. Fast. The inheritance money had clearly been part of his future plans. Without it, everything cracked. Loans. Truck payments. Equipment debt. Within weeks his truck got repossessed. His business started falling apart. My mother immediately filed financial separation paperwork. Suddenly the great family team became every person for themselves. Funny how quickly greed turns love into paperwork. Bucknell tuition disappeared too. Skylar lost her deposit. She cried to admissions. Eventually she chose Penn State Harrisburg instead. Much cheaper. Much safer. In May, Mark moved out completely. A rented room above a garage. My mother kept the house technically. The bank kept most of it realistically. I never celebrated any of this. That part matters. I didn't ruin their lives. I simply refused to become their solution. Meanwhile, the disciplinary board investigated Lance Briggs. The whistleblower spoke. Other families came forward. Patterns emerged. Missing educational trusts. Family LLC schemes. Manipulated elderly clients. 8 weeks later, Briggs lost his law license for 3 years. The local paper buried the article on page 3. But in towns like ours, page 3 stories travel farther than front-page headlines. Caldwell emailed me the article with no message attached. I replied. Thank you. 3 minutes later he answered. Justice isn't loud. I saved that email forever. Because he was right. Real justice rarely screams. It just keeps walking slowly toward daylight until nobody can stop seeing it anymore. In late May, Skylar texted me. I didn't know she wanted all of it. I thought it was just for my tuition. I swear. I stared at the message a long time. Then 3 days later I replied. I know. You were in the kitchen, not behind the paperwork. 3 dots appeared. Then. I'm sorry. I answered. I know. Then. Coffee in a year when you're 18 and away from the house. I mean it. Her answer came immediately. Okay, Quinny. I almost cried at that. She hadn't called me Quinny since Grandpa died. August arrived. Penn State move-in day. Beth helped pack everything into her Civic. Grandpa's lamp. My books. The cedar box. The letter. All of it came with me. My roommate Maya hugged me within 60 seconds of meeting me. Loud laugh. Bright energy. No emotional landmines hidden beneath conversations. That first night in the dorm, she casually announced, I don't talk to my mom much either. And somehow hearing another girl say that so casually healed something small inside me. College changed me slowly. Not dramatically. Quietly. I learned that silence could feel peaceful instead of dangerous. I learned nobody punished me for laughing too loudly. Nobody rolled their eyes if I got excited. Nobody weaponized emotions. My mother texted twice during the first semester. Are you safe? Then later. I miss you. I didn't answer either message. Not because I hated her. Because I finally understood something important. Access to me was not automatic anymore. That realization felt bigger than the money. Every Sunday, Beth called. One night she asked softly, how's your heart? I looked around my dorm room while snow touched the window. Maya hummed in the shower nearby. No tension. No fear. No waiting for criticism. I answered honestly. It's quiet. Good quiet or bad quiet? I smiled. Good quiet. Beth was silent a moment. Then she said gently, that's peace, Peanut. Peace. I sat with that word for a long time. My entire childhood, silence meant survival. Now silence meant safety. That difference changed everything. Exactly 1 year after signing the trust papers, I sat alone in Paterno Library. Late snow drifted outside the windows. I checked the trust statement online. The account had grown. Tuition paid. Housing paid. Books paid. Security. Freedom. At the bottom of the page were my grandparents' names. Harold and Margaret Everett. Originators of Corpus. I touched the screen lightly with my fingertips. Then I closed the laptop. Outside, snow fell slowly under the campus lights. My phone buzzed. A text from Skylar. A picture of her dorm room at Penn State Harrisburg. Coffee in May? I smiled softly. Then I typed. Yes. I'll drive. I slipped my phone into my pocket and walked outside into the cold night air. For the first time in my life, the future felt like mine. Not my mother's. Not Mark's. Mine. Grandpa had been right all along. Your choice. Your life. And finally, I understood exactly what he meant. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories like this. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my place?